Welcome back. It's time now for Media Watch here on France 24. I'm joined by Olivia Salazar-Winspear. Hello there. Now, we're going to start by talking about Algeria, where the education minister has become something of a target, hasn't he, in a Twitter campaign. What's all this about?
Yes, it seems there's a whole group of young, tech-savvy Algerians who want to see the back of their education minister. That's Aboubakar Ben Bouzid. He's been education minister since 1993. Now, that's almost 20 years, and that's longer than the current president, Bouteflika, who came to power in 1999. So he's gone through various administrations. Now, these cyber protesters want him out. They've started a Facebook group and also a Twitter campaign called Dégage Ben Bouzid, or Get Out Ben Bouzid here. Now, all of this is quite reminiscent of the Arab Spring, of course, as you know, we saw this at the beginning of last year. But this is a country that didn't see the same scope of protest as its neighbours during those uprisings. And in general, there isn't an anti-presidential feeling against Bouteflika, as we saw, for example, against Mubarak or against Gaddafi. This is a very unique case. This article in Slate analyses it in a little bit more detail. They think that this is because in Algeria, the president doesn't actually have a monopoly on the power. It's the army who holds all the cards. One Algerian sociologist said that Bouteflika is like the Queen of England, but without the glamour, i.e. much more of a symbolic role. And what they say is that because the president is in a weak position, the way to get things done is to have friends in high places, perhaps in the army or the hidden powers. And his detractors say that that's why Ben Bouzid has managed to stay in his position so long, that he's got the right friends and he stayed education minister through two different cabinets. Now, what's striking about Algeria and the state of education is that when you look at a country with just over 40 million people, 6.5 million people are illiterate. And this despite a very large budget dedicated to education. So obviously something's going wrong here. Something's not being taught, or education's failing somehow. We took a look at some Algerian children's textbooks. And here it's quite interesting to see that the photographs you see are very conservative, very old-fashioned in the roles they depict, women doing domestic tasks, childcare, that kind of thing. And you imagine that this is what a lot of the young people are getting angry about. This tweet from a young Algerian protester said, "These kind of school books are the ones that sentence my mother to a life, in the kitchen." So this is part of the kind of movement against Ben Bouzid. And there are people who even suggest that his role is part of a strategy to keep the masses uneducated, that is, in school, but not learning what they need to learn, which really, curbs revolt or opposition.
Yeah, well, thinking back to my own French textbooks, I think some of them were fairly politically incorrect, and that was only, 20-odd years ago.
Indeed.
Now, you've got some photography, haven't you, from The Atlantic magazine that it paints a picture about the international employment situation. Tell us more about this.
This is a very poignant set of photos that were commissioned by The Atlantic magazine. Now, what they do is they show young people in their places of work, a portrait. They're very nice portraits, but there's a bittersweet edge to these photos because these young people, there's a caption below saying what they studied and how long they studied for. They have very impressive degrees in things like engineering, finance, but most of them are working in low-paid or part-time jobs across, on every continent. So this is a whole generation whose working lives have been dictated by the downturn and by the banking crises, liquidity crises, and it's universal.
I'm looking at the way the markets are heading. There's no light at the end of the tunnel either. And finally, you've got a story of a little girl's blog about something she was posting is a little bit controversial in Scotland.
This is Martha Payne. She started a food blog called Never Seconds. Now, what she did is she recorded her canteen meal every day at school. It was a writing exercise at the beginning, but her blog sadly got banned by local authorities. They said that it was presenting a really bad image of her school canteen because many of the that doesn't look very appetizing. Many of the dishes were nutritionally poor, not very well presented, and small portions. They said she had to shut down her blog, which led to outrage on Twitter. She even had the support of Jamie Oliver here in the Telegraph. So they've reinstated her blog. They said that she's free to blog now, and the aspiring young journalist is back campaigning for social issues like better food in canteens for young children.
It sounds like a very worthy cause. I'm surprised those attempts to muzzle that little girl and her important message.
So watch that space. She's the next big journalist, Martha Payne.
Thank you very much indeed, Olivia Salazar-Winspear. Well, do stay tuned to France 24 because in just a few moments we'll have all the latest headlines plus all the latest on Aung San Suu Kyi's visit to Norway. Do stay tuned to France 24.